Hi, my name is Rachel and welcome back to Auxhart Gardening. For those of you who are new here, I am in South Carolina. I am specifically in the upstate, so it's Zone 7B, and it just got done raining here, so we are going to go take a quick garden tour, and we are also going to harvest. Alright, so we will start out where we always do, at the tomato trellis. And the first thing I want you to notice is that I actually took the time and cleared all the weeds out of here. It was pretty bad last week. It needed to be done. And now I have room to walk all along the tomato row and show you guys everything that's going on. So right here up at the front, this is papalo, which is a cilantro type herb that'll grow in the heat, which is really nice because cilantro bolts immediately as soon as tomatoes are starting to be able to grow, which makes it really inconvenient to try and make fresh salsa from the garden. So this is a great substitute if you have that issue. And then right here next to everything is a pole bean. I've got 3 of these down the row, and it looks like they're starting to put on flowers, so it'll still be a couple of weeks until we get fruit off of those. But you'll notice the tomatoes are so close. This one is almost blushing. It's got just a slight yellowish tinge to it, and I've actually started harvesting a few tomatoes, but from the looks of it, it looks like we will have a lot very soon. And something I want to mention to you guys is about the timing of harvesting your tomatoes. So usually if you want really sweet, sugary tomatoes, you want to wait until the middle of the day when it's really hot, hasn't rained in a couple of days, and then go and harvest your tomatoes. However, I've got these tomatoes right here that have been blushing for a couple of days. And even though it just rained, I'm going to go ahead and start pulling them, because what will happen is once a tomato is done growing and it gets a lot of water, a lot of times the skin becomes less elastic than it previously was, and that's when you end up with cracks either down the side, or sometimes you'll see some tomatoes around the top of the tomato. And so to keep bacteria from getting in and getting those ugly cracks in my tomatoes, I'm just going to go ahead and commit to pulling them now since I didn't get to them before it rained. And I'm just going to twist them off the vine like that. A lot of times you'll find tomatoes, once they start getting ripe, will just kind of fall off the plant like that. It's a lot harder to twist off a green tomato than one that has started to ripen. And because tomatoes ripen via ethylene gas, they will ripen just fine indoors off the vine. Really the biggest upside to ripening them on the vine is that sugar buildup from a heat perspective and a dehydration of the tomato perspective. And when I say dehydration, I mean dehydration of the plant right before harvest of the fruit. Let's see if there's any more. Yeah, there's a couple more over here that we can get. I am getting ready to make sauce and salsa with one of my friends. She's gonna come over and learn how to can for the first time, and it'll be really nice because I need the help with all of these tomatoes. Ooh, how are we gonna get this one out? Okay. I need the help with all of my tomatoes, and she is finally in a spot where she can start thinking about growing a large garden next year, and she needs the knowledge. So it feels like a really even trade to me. Alright, so coming back to the front, this is my tomatoes, and this is the row of peppers right here. In front is my ever-expanding mint plant that really needs to be cut back, and all of my basil plants, which I've been pulling from, so much so that I was able to make, I had 8 cups of leaves to make pesto with the other day. So I've been making that and freezing that into cubes. I've got these these are orange bell peppers starting to ripen on the vine over here. And if we keep going, these are some Edjavarsky peppers that are starting to get ready. I've already pulled a couple of these. More basil. And these pepper plants here in the middle section, still not looking great. You can actually see that even though the tops are fine, the bottoms still look a little scraggly. And this has sort of progressed down this way. And so you can see the yellowing of the leaves in here and the way that these are getting spotty. And so whatever this is that they have, it is continuing to spread, but it is not killing the plants. Something kind of encouraging is most of the plants around here where it started seem to be like sort of recovering. You can still see that they are getting spots on the leaves, but they're continuing to grow. Green, nice growth at the top, and they're actually putting on new flowers. So I'm pretty hopeful that I'll continue to get fruit off of these plants. They're just not going to be as vigorous and productive as they might have been if this disease hadn't come through. And I'm going to have to do some looking to see what I can do to prevent this next year. Draco baby, come here. What a cute little garden cat. This is Draco, my, how old is he? He's like 8.5. He is an absolute sweetheart, and he really loves being on camera. He'll come over and bump my hand while I'm trying to video a specific plant and be like, no, that hand's for me. Alright, so if we continue down the row of peppers, I have my Tabasco peppers coming in here, and my Oda peppers are just now starting to change color. So some of these will start being harvestable soon. And then back in here, these are my banana pinos. And I haven't seen any fruits on these yet, but last year these were pretty productive for me and they produced really, really good peppers. So I am excited. Oh, they've definitely got some flowers on them, look at that. Although with peppers, from flower to ripe harvestable pepper is like a month. On my way back down the row, I went ahead and grabbed a couple of these peppers off, and I wanted to mention these spots. They're soft, they feel a little rotted, but if you have something like this on your pepper plant, everything around it, as long as you're not eating the mushy bit, is fine. It's totally normal pepper to eat. You just got to be a little careful when you are cutting it up and make sure you use only the parts that look okay. Okay, so coming back to the other side of the pepper row, I have corn, I have a giant kale, and right here at the base of the kale, I have an itty bitty baby dill plant. I got these started really late this year, not really in time for my cucumbers, my pickling, but I'm going to go ahead and let this grow up and make sure I get some dried dill for when this inevitably happens again next year. I know it looks like I'm really on top of things in the garden, but y'all, I am a lazy gardener. There's so many other things that I could be doing to get this garden more put together and more on time that I am just not doing. And I mean, look at it. It's all still fine. You do not have to be a perfect on top of everything gardener to have a great garden that makes you lots of food. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and wiggle my way through here. I don't think I'll be able to walk through here for much longer. We've got over here in between the corn some more ginger, basil, a little bit more corn. This nasturtium is still getting bigger and bigger every week, making adorable little edible flowers. And then if I step over it, we have the impromptu Turnip Jungle intermixed with sweet potato and regular potatoes. And you can sort of see that the potatoes are still starting to die back. I thought last week that they might die back a little faster and they might be close, but now I'm thinking they're still at least a couple of weeks out from being harvestable. And that's fine because I'm still going through the potatoes from my first harvest this summer. Right next to me are some of my eggplants, and we are at that time of year when the Nagasaki long eggplant starts making little curly Q eggplants instead of the long thin ones it's supposed to. This happened about this time last year too. Oh, this one's straight. I'm not really sure why. Like, I would think if it was running into something, that would make sense. But this one seems to not have been affected by anything to make it curl. So I think that's really interesting. And then farther on down, I have Antigua Eggplants. And I think I saw one of them stepping all over these turnips. Yeah. That one is getting almost ready to pull. These things are really, really gorgeous. This one actually probably is ready. I can just pull at it. Oh, and I did try those turnips that are growing over there. They reseeded themselves from the turnips I had grown over winter, and I didn't mean for them to be there, but I decided to let them grow, and I noticed that they were starting to bulb up, which I thought was very weird given that usually root vegetables don't start bulbing up until it gets cool. And so I tried some, and I was expecting them to be really bitter and tough, and they were actually really nice. Not like top quality, like sweet winter vegetable, but they were pretty good considering the growing conditions. They're growing in wood chips, and I step on them all the time, and it's the middle of a really hot summer. My arches starting to look very filled out. I've been harvesting cucumbers from over here pretty consistently. I've made something like 12 jars of pickles now. And we're starting to get to the point where you can see the plant is struggling with probably the heat, and it's probably a little bit of powdery mildew, although it's not quite as powdery as I would expect powdery mildew to be. But the thing is, cucumbers, after a certain point, they just kind of get like this. And it's not necessarily your fault. It's just, I've always seen cucumbers start looking like this after a while. And so what I'll probably do is, once the fruit on these starts looking not so great, there's still plenty coming on here. Once it starts looking not so great, I'll probably rip them out and plant some fresh seeds and have second summer cucumbers going along this side of the trellis. On the other side, I have my winter squash starting to take over. These are sugar pie pumpkins, and down there are butternut squashes, which they seem kind of stunted in comparison for sure. So it might just be sugar pie pumpkins on this trellis, which is fine. Little baby right there getting ready to come out. I think this is going to be really cool. I just got to make sure I stay on top of protecting the fruit. Oh, and I wanted to show you guys the coolest thing. So every other fruit on this cucumber plant has looked like this, white and then ripening with a little bit of yellow on top. And then there's this one cucumber here. It's green. It looks like a different variety, but I know for a fact that I planted all of these seeds the same, and this is the only cucumber on the whole trellis that is green. So that's very weird. I don't know what sort of genetic anomaly would cause it to just randomly make a green cucumber, but that's so interesting. All right, and of course we've got to come back and look at the noodle bean trellis. I haven't given you guys really a good up-close look at these since they really started putting on fruit. They grow so fast. Like this one right here, it's still a little thin. It'll be fattening up by this time tomorrow and super pickable. And this one, 2 or 3 days, and that'll be very large and ready to pick. So I am picking so many noodle beans right now. I only planted half as many plants as I did last year, because last year I planted both sides of the trellis on both ends of the trellis, and this year I only did one side, and it is still so many noodle beans. Something else really interesting, there are these little fire ants at the nodes, I guess, of every single noodle bean on this trellis. And they really seem to like hanging out right there on the noodle beans, which I think is weird, and I'm pretty sure they did this last year too. So they must really like something about that. And I'm wondering what they're doing. If you have any ideas, let me know. They don't seem to be eating anything or hurting anything. They're just kind of existing there. Alrighty, and then if we move on to the last row, this is peppers and zinnias over here. And one plant that I'm particularly excited about is this one. This is making what some people call Peppadew Peppers. You may have seen them pickled on pizzas, but I'm growing this one specifically because my friend Krista said that they are her favorite. So that one is exciting. And then down here we have, these are Big Gym Jalapenos, I believe. Some of these are getting probably close to pullable. Beautiful, beautiful colors on these zinnias. And then down here, these are golden honey peppers. We have probably another Big Gym here. Little pumpkin peppers. These are going to be spicy, I think, and they're going to turn orange like teeny tiny pumpkins. Down here, more peppers. These, I cannot pronounce their name, but I will put that up on the screen. And lastly, back here are some Cayenne Peppers that are just starting to kind of grow out. It'll be a little while before they ripen up. Here's another one here. And then as we go past the peppers, we have the experimental Brussels sprout and my two bushing squash plants. These, I'm pretty sure, are golden acorn squash, and we're just starting to get little babies here. Flowers haven't even opened yet. Oh, and I need to show you guys this noodle bean. I missed the peak harvest time and it went way too far, and this is how fat they get once the beans really plump up. And at this point the skin gets kind of tough and it's not super fun to eat. But last year I saved seeds from this, and those are what got planted here. And so I might as well save some again. And they actually work really well as dried beans as well if you have a lot of them. I think I put mine in a chili this past winter, and that went really well. Alright, just a quick check-in on the raised bed. Mostly looking the same as it did last week, except we are starting to see a few more little flowers coming in on the oregano. And the parsley seeds I probably should have pulled before the rain. Some of them are looking a little soggy. We'll see if they dry out. But all of this is ready to come out. And we've got the thyme, the tarragon, and the stevia, which I still haven't pulled and done anything with this year. Mostly just one of those things that falls to the bottom of the list when you've got all of this produce coming in. But I have done better with it this year than I did last year. So as long as I'm improving, I'm going to be happy with that. Oof, and next on my list of places to weed is going to be down here. This grass takes over so fast, dude. Oh man. And then the blackberry bushes that got munched by the deer, they seem to be making a recovery. Lots of new leaves. Not too worried about that. Same with the strawberry. I'm sure it's going to be just fine. For some reason, the deer wanted the blackberries, but they didn't really touch the raspberries. I think that's very strange. Neither one of them have thorns. Definitely no fruit from any of that this year, but this time next year, I'm thinking I'm going to start getting fruit, at least from the strawberries and the raspberries and the blackberries. The blueberries look like they're still a little bit behind, and I think I'm going to have to do a soil pH test to figure out if the pH is too high for them, because they really want slightly acidic soil. Alrighty, well, as the sun is coming out after the rain, it is getting so humid out here. So I'm going to go inside, put all of this up, and I will see you again very soon. If you didn't know, I put out a garden tour every single Wednesday, so check back next week to catch up. And over here I have lists for last year's and the rest of this year's garden tours. Until next time, happy gardening!